been learning how the Israelites wanted a king to rule over them. Not only did God give them a king, but their king Saul ended up not obeying God. Even through this, God had an amazing plan to use a king to save all of his people. This king wasn't Saul, but was Jesus. So why don't we worship our glorious King of Kings together?
Let it begin, our freedom celebration. We'll dance and sing. There's a Holy Ghost party that never stops. Arise, in your praise my soul delights. Shine, my dance anthem is your love. Sing it again, our God reigns. We lift our praise unto your name again. All around the world we'll sing. Sing it again, our God reigns. We taught our dead hearts how to beat again. All around the world we'll sing. Around the world, join in the celebration. Let it be heard. There's a Holy Ghost party that never stops. Arise, in your praise my soul delights. Shine, my dance anthem is your love. Sing it again, our God reigns. We lift our praise unto your name again. All around the world we'll sing. Sing it again, our God reigns. We taught our dead hearts how to beat again. All around the world we'll sing. Every tribe and nation, come and join the celebration. Every heart and generation, sing, let it begin, let it begin. Every tribe and nation, come and join the celebration. Every heart and generation, sing, let it begin, let it begin. Sing it again, our God reigns. We lift our praise unto your name again. All around the world we'll sing. Sing it again, our God reigns. We taught our dead hearts how to beat again. All around the world we'll sing.
Today we are playing a game called Whose Drink Is That? A fun game where we will place 4 drinks in a line like this. Unfortunately, not all drinks are going to be tasty. Some may contain hot sauce and others may contain soy sauce. Our contestants will try to find the drink without finding the yucky substitutes. Are you ready to see how they do?
I don't like this. Can't tell. That's Coke, right?
Okay. I'm really nervous. Let's see. I don't don't like soy sauce at all. That's fizzy, like Coke. So I think it's Coke. I understand what Johnny's saying.
All right, I'm supposed to choose one of these, and hopefully it is the Coke. Nothing's coming out. Yummy. That's Coke. I chose well.
Look, they did. I think I got a strap.
No. I don't wanna. It's not coming up and I don't want it to. Even this, no. I'd be done.
This is the hole that I don't know which one to choose. I'll go with this one. Wait. Maybe this one. Wait. Maybe this one. Nope, I'm going this one.
Thanks for playing, everyone. We hope you had fun watching our contestants try to find a tasty drink.
Now, some of these drinks were nowhere close to the real deal. I can't seem to think of anyone who would choose soy sauce over Coke. In most situations, the real thing is way better, and our story today is a great reminder of this. Today, we'll be hearing about how King Saul sinned against God. While Saul was king, his mistakes remind us of just how amazing the real King of Kings is. So let's repeat our big idea together to remind ourselves of this truth. It says, God is holy because he is perfect and without sin. In this situation, God has proven himself as the real king. Every other king would not even come close to his glory and splendor. So, let's see how Saul compares to Christ by watching our story together.
King Saul gathered an army and took some of the men into the hill country. The rest of the army went with Saul's son Jonathan to the city of Gibeah. Israel's enemies, the Philistines, were in the land. The Philistines came out to fight the Israelites. They had more chariots, more horses, and more soldiers. The Israelites were outnumbered. They were all afraid. Some of them hid. Saul wanted to ask God for help. Maybe if he made an offering to God, they would win the battle. There was one problem. Only the priests, like Samuel, were allowed to give offerings to God. Saul waited, but Samuel did not come. Saul's soldiers started to leave, so Saul decided to make an offering to God himself. Then Samuel showed up. "Saul, what are you doing?" Samuel asked. "You hadn't come, and the men were leaving me. I wanted to ask for God's help before we went into battle against the Philistines," Saul replied. "You have disobeyed God," Samuel said. Saul was king, not a priest. It was a sin for Saul to make the sacrifice. "You will not be king much longer. God is going to find someone obedient to be king." Sometime later, Samuel came to Saul with a message from God. God wanted Saul to attack the Amalekites. God wanted Saul to destroy everything, but after Saul defeated the Amalekites, he only destroyed things that weren't valuable. God told Samuel, "I regret that I made Saul king because he does not obey me." Samuel confronted Saul and told him what God had said. "I did obey him," Saul argued. "I only saved the best animals to sacrifice to the Lord." Samuel asked, "Does God care more about obedience or sacrifices? You rejected his instruction, so God has rejected you as king." Saul admitted his sin and pleaded for forgiveness. Samuel said, "God has taken away your kingship today, and he is giving it to another king." God gave the Israelites a king, but Saul did not obey God. God had a plan to send his son, Jesus. King Jesus trusted and obeyed God perfectly and died so sinners could be forgiven and accepted.
God desires our full obedience, but people struggle to obey God the way he designed. Like how Saul did not obey God fully. He sinned because he thought his ways were better than God's. But God's ways are always the best. I want to show you all something by making elephant toothpaste. Have you ever seen or heard about this experiment? It's made with water, soap, yeast, and peroxide. When we combine all of them, we get this. Elephant toothpaste. Now here's the thing. While it's really fun to do this experiment, you can't pull all of the ingredients back out. Once it's mixed, it's impossible to separate the yeast from the water or the water from the soap. It seems silly to think that I could reach my hand into this and grab all the yeast out. Obviously, that's impossible. This demonstration can teach us about the effect that sin has on our lives. When we sin, there is nothing we can do to undo what we've done. Our sin has consequences. God often allows us to experience these negative consequences of disobedience as a way of teaching us how important it is to follow his commands. In our Bible story, Saul disobeyed God. When Samuel confronted him, Saul was sorry, but there was nothing he could do to take away his sin. We have talked about how sin separates us from God. Why does sin separate us from God? Because he is holy, sin has broken our relationship with God. We don't have to try to hide our sin because God already knows everything we have done. He wants us to live with open hearts towards him, confessing our sin and repenting, turning back to him even when we disobey. Go ahead and close your time together as a family. Read through 1 Samuel chapter 13, verses 8 through 14. Then pray, asking God to show you ways that you are actively disobeying or sinning. Thanks for watching, everyone. We will see you next week when we hear about how God chose David to be king.